What's the DJ?
Hey, check this out. We got a great show coming your way.
From the ECSI Sports Studios, it's the Midday Market Report with Jeff Dawson.
Good afternoon, sports fans from all around the globe. I am the host, Jeff Dawson, East Coast Sports Investors, and this is the Midday Market Report for Friday, March 10th, 2023. Let me see. It's 2 o'clock. 4 hours and 7 minutes ago, Mass launched 7 apps, and, you can lead a horse to water. You can't make them drink, and, you try to get one set up. I've been in this space for 8.5 years, and you tell people it's coming, build it, they will come. And everyone just laughed at you. Now everyone's crawling out of the woodwork like, Jeff, I got all these free bets. Jeff, who do you like today? No. It doesn't work that way. And today we're blessed for inning number 2, Johnny VTV, Matt Grissom, an amazing opening week that we had with them talking some college sports here at East Coast Sports. We're trying to cover all the bases, no pun intended, with college sports, lacrosse. Me and Andrew do some CFL coming up soon. There's nothing we don't cover, and we're trying here to educate everyone here. Johnny and Matt are amazing at what they do with some college baseball. So we're going to recap what happened last weekend. We cashed some tickets, some nice dogs, and we're going to get everyone set up for this coming weekend. So without further ado, let's bring them in. Johnny VTV and Matt Grissom.
What's up, man? How we doing?
Johnny, what's going on, my brother?
How's everything, man? Always a pleasure to be on with the one and only Jeff Dawson, EC Sports Invest.
Hey, I can't thank you enough. I enjoy watching you guys do something that I'm trying to get better at, and that's college baseball. My producer, Kiefer Bagwell, one of the best in the business, down south, Ole Miss baseball. He had the golden ticket last year. I think he doubled and tripled down. And I think, week to week, God willing, we're going to cover college baseball as we get closer to Omaha, and there'll be a million series before then. But without that, Matty, what's up, my brother?
What's up, man? We're just like you. We're trying to get better at college baseball too. So you're not alone in that at all.
Matt, give us a recap in your eyes, and I guess your bankroll and your wallet. How'd you make out last weekend?
Last weekend was basically a break even. I bounced back after a horrible Friday where somebody came out on Twitter, told me I should stick to real estate. Saturday, I think I was plus 1 or 2 units, and then Sunday the same. It was a pretty disappointing weekend. I thought I kind of had a couple of these teams figured out. Turns out that I don't, so I adjust and bring it on to the next week.
How about you, Johnny?
So as you know, I had a great Friday. I think Matt did as well with me. We did our show. It was a really great game. The best bet with Florida cashed. And then Saturday was bad because Florida ruined a lot of it. I had a big stake with Florida. I did what I said I was going to do. I was going to put a 2-unit play on them, and I did. And they were up 6-1, and they blew it to Miami. So they were up 6-1, and they allowed 13 unanswered runs. I've never seen anything like that. So that kind of ruined my Saturday, and that pissed me off so much I didn't want to do anything on Sunday because I didn't even want to think about it. And it kind of sucked because Sunday, when I was looking at the lines, I would have did pretty well if I played some stuff and I gave out some of my looks there. But overall, it was okay.
We just have to
I'll
do
give
better.
you the worst bad beat for me, and this was in Major League Baseball. Major League Baseball, a million years back when Seattle had the record for, I think, the most wins in a season, 115, before cable and all that. ESPN covered the Sunday night game, and Seattle was excellent. And Seattle was up 14-1 in the bottom of the 7th, and Cleveland won the game 15-14 in 9 innings. So thank God I didn't go out and cash those tickets, because we know what happens when we start celebrating early. But Maddie, what about you overall? I mean, any key injuries, anything that, you set up these weekend series, and sometimes you can see, hey, I love the matchup on Friday. I love it on Sunday. I'm just going to back off on Saturday, or vice versa. Did you see anything like that last weekend?
I think the best thing I did was go back to the well with Florida on Sunday, cashing that, and as well as South Carolina. Those were two that kind of bit me earlier in the weekend, but going back to the well with them. Texas Tech, Texas A&M, talking about 14, 15 innings. That game lasted well into the next day. And Tadlock made a horrible mistake leaving this guy out to just continue to walk runner after walk runner. They gave up a 2-1 lead, and they ended up losing, I think, in 15 innings. Texas Tech lost to A&M, and that was my last one of the night that was a loser. But as a plus 105 dog, I had to lay it with take the Red Raiders. But overall, I think teams that improved. Louisville, I had to give them some credit. They're 11-1, and they beat TCU 3-2. They beat Texas A&M 14-5, and in that Shriners Classic, they're moving up the ranks. I still don't know if this is a team long term I can back just because of that pitching staff. Another team like that is Miami. Johnny and I just talked about it. With outside of Yo-Yo Morales, I don't know who Miami has that could win long term. They've got a tough series opening up in ACC play against NC State today, which we'll get into in a little bit. But outside of that, I mean, Miami looked somewhat impressive because they did steal a game from Florida. And Louisville is another team that I'm going to watch closely, see if we can't bet.
How about you, Johnny? Anything stick out to you?
Yeah, good and bad. Bad starting Maryland. They're a travesty, and they were supposed to be one of the best 25 teams in the country. They had a good run last year, and they're a mess. Their bullpen, I think we talked about this last week. Their bullpen we knew was bad, but their offense just will not refuse to stop allowing all these runners to stay on base. Like, they won't drive in runners. I think that's bad. I think Texas A&M has big problems, even though they kind of had a bounce back series last weekend. I think those are two teams that I would be really concerned about. But then you get to the good teams, right? The teams that I kind of liked away from the top five, with like Tennessee, LSU, Wake Forest, Florida, those kind of teams. Campbell is a team that I think we really need to have respect for, because last year, this team, I think, makes it at least to the Super Regionals if they are in any other draw except for Tennessee's region. They're 300-1 on DraftKings. It came down to 100-1 to win it all this past weekend. But they're still 300-1 on Caesars, so I made sure I grabbed it. Listen, I don't think they're as good as they were last year, but they were an absolute Trojan horse in 2022. I think they have what it takes to make a deep run this year. And you know how it works, man. You get a long futures ticket. It's not always necessarily just about hitting it. They don't necessarily just have to win. They have to make it far enough to where you can start creating equity off the ticket. Maybe you start hedging against them, or maybe they get a favorable spot and you ride it out, whatever the case may be. And then another long shot would be that I think is really rolling and might win 40 games this year is the Grand Canyon Antelopes. That team is legit. They have 3 good starters in Daniel Lavisha, Connor Markle, and Zach Thornton. They have a couple studs on offense with Jacob Wilson, who might be the number 1 shortstop off the board in July, Homer Bush Jr., Cade Verduzco, Zach Gregory. I think this Grand Canyon team is going to be close to 40 wins, and they're going to be a team that should make it far, because I think they can compete with any team in any conference. So those are some of the quieter teams that I think people need to look at that they might not know about right now.
Any to add, Matt?
I love the Campbell Camels too, man. If this team was anywhere other than playing in the Big South Conference, put them in a Power 5 school. They've got Power 5 talent. They just don't have the facilities. But, man, you can't doubt the Camels at this point. They're a horse, and they should run roughshod over the entire Big South. And outside of that, the only other long shot that I would look at this point, and it's not even that long of a shot anymore, is Iowa. I think you can get them around 25 or 30 to 1. But we were just talking about it. Iowa may be really good at baseball. And the Hawkeyes at this point, I think the number is going to go down if they win this series against Texas Tech. And I like them to do so. Alabama is another team too, just shooting off some long shots at this point. But Alabama is good at baseball. And I don't know how that translates into the SEC season. Maybe they're going to fall off. They do have a pretty tough schedule. But at this point, they're 14-0 before they go on the road to face Arkansas. They get a couple of good home series against Auburn and Kentucky that they should take care of. But that LSU, Vanderbilt, Texas A&M back-to-back series, that's going to tell us a lot about how the Crimson Tide are. But at this point, man, there's just so much value on the board for the long shots, not so much value on the short shots. Just tread lightly. The season is early. That's all I have to say.
All right, Johnny, I got the DraftKings board in me. Tonight's results. I wish it was tonight's results. We'd all be making a lot of money tonight. But I got the lines in front of me. Top of the board, Maryland versus Maine. Maine used to be good at baseball, guys. That was probably before your time. But the Maine Orono Black Bears used to be good at baseball. Louisiana Tech, Arkansas, Duke, Virginia, Carolina, LMU, Vanderbilt. Johnny, to the first game or / series that you like this weekend and why?
So I'm probably off that Maryland Maine one, but if we're going in alphabetical order or chronological order, I should say, Boston College, Virginia Tech was the first thing we talked about, Matt and myself, on Breaking Bet, my podcast at 1:00 Eastern time on Fridays. We both like Boston College today. Boston College has won 10 games in a row. Their offense has been hitting the ball really well. They just beat Tennessee. And so, like, in a midweek game, a lot can happen. It's a real wild card across the board. But the Vols are still the Vols, and they have a lot of weapons. And Boston College got up on them. And then when Tennessee was making their comeback, the Eagles shut that down. This team is good right now. I don't know if they're a legit threat to make a deep run. I would probably lean towards no. But they have some pretty good pitching to go along with this hitting. So they're going against Virginia Tech today, who is a top 15 ranked school. And they have Griffin Green throwing, who Matt and myself would both agree is their second best pitcher. Drew Hackenberg, the brother of former Penn State quarterback Christian Hackenberg, is going tomorrow. He's the guy that would be more likely the one to pull out a win. John West today on the bump for Boston College is why we're going with this W for the Eagles at a big plus 200 or a plus 240 upset, because we just don't think Virginia Tech is that good. They're very overrated. They lost a big piece last year in the offseason with Gavin Cross, who went top 10 overall to the Royals, who's doing big things in the major leagues and spring training this year. We just don't know if this Boston College team is going to be able to be debunked by a Virginia Tech team that has one or two guys that really does damage and that's played a pretty soft schedule. So for the number, it's Boston College today. I like them at a half unit on the money line at least and a full unit on the plus 2.5 run line. And then tomorrow's when their big boy goes. Chris Flynn, 17 shutout innings, 27 strikeouts for the Eagles this year. So we think that Boston College could ultimately take this series, and that will get off to a good start Friday night.
Matt?
Yep, we are simpatico on that. I'm on the 2.5 with the Eagles and the plus 240 money line play. I'm also going to be looking at betting the under tomorrow. I think with Hackenberg and Chris Flynn going, you've got two guys that are sub 3 ERAs or sub 2 ERAs even. I think this should be a really good series. I'm excited to watch it. I'm hoping Boston College isn't a fluke right now and Virginia Tech doesn't show up and just close the door on us. But that plus 240 line looks too good to pass up. I think the game may have already started, so I apologize that we're giving out a bet that for a game that's already kicked off. But I think that's the only game going that we're going to talk about today.
It was funny. I was scrolling through the DraftKings and I'm searching, and of course now I remember that we cannot bet on locals, even though there's been 4 mysterious bets since January 31st on college sports in Mass. But that's for another show here. All right, who's next? Matt, give us a second game.
The second best bet I've got, I'm going back to this Wake Forest team. They're minus 165 versus Duke. I just don't think Duke can hit against these pitchers. Wake Forest should sweep the series. They may lose one, but I don't think it's going to be Friday night. So I laid the 165 with Wake. And, right now we're just back in the wagon. Wake Forest, these guys can hit. I don't think Duke's pitcher, Santucci, is going to be able to contain this offense, especially after giving up 7 errors in their midweek game that they lost, giving them the first loss of the season. I think Wake Forest bounces back in a big way. I love Wake, love the run line. I think Rhett Lauder is going to come out and throw some gas. Just Duke's going to get shut down. I think they're going to struggle this whole series, but especially game 1 tonight.
Yeah, I think.
What was the series price?
They don't do series prices. I wish they did. That would be an awesome market. If I had to make one, I would say Wake would be like minus 350 to win this series.
So I'm going to echo Matt. We have a lot of the same opinions today. So I think Wake Forest, I got them at 175 on DraftKings, and they're up to 190 now. I think he said it all. Duke's off. Duke is a solid team. They're an under-the-radar team, but they're not in the same class as Wake Forest. They have a really good shortstop by the name of Alex Mooney. They have a couple guys that could do a little bit here and there, but they just do not have an offense. Wake Forest arguably has the best 1 through 5 in their lineup of any team in the country. That includes LSU. That includes Florida. That includes Tennessee. That includes Arkansas, Ole Miss. The list goes on. I think Wake Forest 1 through 5 might be the best. And then they have a pitcher who is probably going to be a top 10. He might be the 4th pitcher off the board this year. Rhett Lauder, who he's a real threat to win the 2023 Pitcher of the Year. This kid does throw gas. He's got a great mix of pitches in his bag, and this Wake Forest bullpen is disgusting. This team, realistically, can score 10 or 12 runs on their own and then have a 7 shutout inning performance from their ace tonight. That's how they can do it. They are a deep and loaded team, playmakers everywhere. They are one of the best programs in that regard in the entire country. I think Wake Forest gets off to a good start tonight. I think them being on the road makes a good price for their run line, minus 1.5 at minus 120. I do think the money line getting up to 190. While I do think they win, I'm not really involved in backing that big of a number at this point. I think I would throw them in a money line parlay, which I have, and I do like the run line at the current value at minus 120.
No, and that's a great point to bring up too, is the fact that, certain people have certain thresholds on how far they'll go on a money line. And so, for me, I like to get cute and coy because, I try to keep it, especially in baseball, at that 130. I'll tiptoe to 135, and then everyone comes crawling out of the woodwork. That's too high. That's why I say use the risk button. If you're $100 player and you want Wake Forest at minus 185 today, risk 100. You profit less at plus $45, $50, but you're still getting a piece of the pie.
Hey,
exactly.
Value is value. I mean, some of these bigger schools, if you threw out a LSU or Tennessee and you're giving me a Friday night starter at minus 200, I'm going to lay that money line. Depending on the matchup. I don't want Tennessee minus 200 against Arkansas, but just value is value. That you've just got to decide if the juice is worth the squeeze.
So here's the point. Here's the point with that. I think this Wake Forest game is a perfect example of that. Value is value, and sometimes people do have certain thresholds. That's why it's important to know different ways to attack it. Because at some point, you're giving out these plays, right? We're giving out Wake Forest money line. We're giving out the Wake Forest run line -1.5 with the -120 number here. That's not going to hit every time, but most of the times it will. You're just going to have to take the good with the bad. Like, okay, sometimes they're going to lose. They're going to come out flat sometimes. But the fact of the matter is, today of all games, Matt is right. We had Wake Forest midweek playing Coastal, who Coastal's no pushover. Coastal's one of those good mid-major programs that they won it in the last 5 or 6 years. Can't remember when they won it, but Wake Forest had 7 errors in that game. Do you know how uncharacteristic that is for this Demon Deacons team? That's why tonight they're going to come out and drop the hammer. I think we could take an alt run line if they even exist in this sport, which they don't. But I feel like you could put out the run line -1.5. They should win by 5 or 6. I think that's how they come out tonight, even against a Duke's good ace Friday guy, John Santucci.
Matt, what?
Yeah.
And I agree with you, by the way. Now the juice is the juice where it's squeezed. So even the run line is minus money. Lots of times you stay away from the money line because you're going for the plus value. Value is only value if you cash a ticket. Okay, let's get that one straight. All those people out there, and I agree with both of you. If I was pitching against Wake Forest tonight and it was only -215, well, I would hope you would go to the window because I couldn't get one guy out, never mind, 9 innings here. So 215 or 315, they all pay the same, guys.
Yep. You only lose juice if the bet loses. So just lay it. I mean, it's the same way with MLB. The run line is just not always advantageous just because if you're backing the home team on a run line, you're going to lose the bottom of that 9th inning. Sometimes the money line, it may pain you to lay 210, 215. If it does, throw it in a parlay. I mean, you could do a 2-team parlay with 250 favorites and you're going to be around even money. So there's multiple ways to attack it. It's never a bad idea to bet a solid pitcher on a Friday night, though, whatever the price is, in some way, shape, or form, whether it be the run line, parlay, or just laying with the money line. But Rhett Lauder -175, -160, that's too good to be true. I mean, yeah. I put Rhett Lauder up there with Chase Dollander and Paul Skeens. And the price you're getting
below.
Well, yeah. But as far as the talent level on what they bring to the team, I think that's too cheap of a price.
I would agree with that.
That was game number 2. Matt, do you have a third game?
I hate to do it to Johnny and myself, really, but Louisiana Tech, okay? Louisiana Tech is playing my Arkansas Razorbacks. Arkansas we are cursed, I swear. Ever since the foul ball drop against Oregon State, everything has just gone wrong. I don't think that we lose tonight, so let me preface that by saying I took Louisiana Tech +200. I thought the line was wrong, and it's nothing against Hagen Smith or our rotation right now, but we just lost our best closer, Brady Tigert. He's going to be out 4 or 5 weeks with an arm injury. We lost our middle reliever, the best one we had, Cody Frank. He's out for the season, Tommy Johns. I just think Arkansas is kind of skating by right now. They've played some really weak competition in Army, who they had to come back against. They got down 4-0 in the 5th and had to come back, fight back, and win that game late. They barely got by Eastern Illinois in a couple of games in that series last weekend. I'm just not buying it. Louisiana Tech has too good of talent, too good of a coach. I just think it's priced wrong. I would have made Arkansas, minus 130 in this first game. Louisiana Tech's got a guy going today that is not awful. Hagen Smith is definitely the better pitcher, but Jonathan Fincher going for Tech, 2-1 on the year, 2.84 ER. Sierra is 3.16 compared to Hagen Smith's 3.03. So you've got a very comparable matchup both ways. And as far as the hitters, Louisiana Tech's got some guys, man. Walker Birchfield, Ethan Bates, Philip Matulia, they can all hit the ball. So I feel like if they can get after Hagen Smith early and get into that rotation in the middle of reliever rotation that Arkansas still hasn't been able to figure out due to these injuries, I think Louisiana Tech can go toe-to-toe with the Hogs. So I know Johnny's on the Razorbacks in a parlay, but I've seen this team too many times, man. They get high, they can't close anything out. So I hope I'm wrong, but if I'm not, I'm going to be a little heartbroken, but at least we'll cash the ticket.
Well, I actually was looking at this line. So when Matt was saying it, I kind of agreed. When I looked at this game, and I was a little worried about Arkansas against LA Tech, because LA Tech is a good team. It's another one of these smaller schools that you don't really hear about, but they have a good program. And I was like, okay, this could be a tougher matchup, but at the end of the day, Arkansas should pull this out. They have their ace going, Hagen Smith, probably a top, Matt, what would you say, a top 12 Friday guy, top 10, definitely.
Yeah.
So, I felt pretty good about it, even though with the loss of some of these guys in the bullpen, the Brady Tigers, the Cody Franks, Tigers really good. And he really turned it on last year in the College World Series. But I still think they have enough weapons to get it done. So hopefully they come through, because I'd be really pissed if they don't. But the game I wanted to touch here is another ACC. We're ACC heavy today with the conference play. Virginia UNC. So this line actually moved. I was on UNC a plus 110. Virginia is one of the 3 remaining undefeated teams in college baseball. Now, the thing about Virginia, they haven't really played anybody. They haven't really beaten anybody. I'm not sold on this team from a standpoint that they're going to make a deep run. They are a good squad. They're ranked for a reason, like a North Carolina. But what does it tell you that UNC is ranked 14 to Virginia's 17, at least according to D1 Baseball? The reason why I like UNC today, but I would take Virginia for the series, is because the Friday guy for the Tar Heels, his name is Max Carlson. He's pretty good. That is by far their best pitcher on their staff, whether it's a reliever or it's a starter. This Tar Heels team is a little top heavy. They have guys like Vance Honeycutt, who's going to be a top 3 pick next year. He is a lot like Trey Turner, big, strong, fast, had 25 bombs last year, 29 steals, and a 300 average. This kid is legit. You're going to hear about Vance Honeycutt in 5 years. Him and Matt Horvath. Those are the 2 boppers for this Tar Heels lineup. However, they just seem to find a way to score runs, at least when Carlson's pitching. The Tar Heels are pretty good when he's on the mound. So I think if they're going to take a game in the series, it's on a Friday against Nick Parker, who he's okay. He's not anything special. It would be a night where UNC comes out and puts up 6 or 7 runs and Carlson has a good game. I think we need Carlson to go 6 innings, maybe 7, because I get a little worried about the UNC bullpen. But for the value that I got at plus 110, which the market isn't agreeing with me because now UNC on DraftKings is even money, I think they're worth an upset play tonight at home.
Any rebuttal there, Matt?
Nope, not at all. I actually completely agree. I think Nick Parker is the worst starting pitcher that the Cavaliers have. I do think they win the series. They've got 3 other arms in that bullpen that can go this weekend to win, but North Carolina seems like the right side tonight, even if the number is going against us right now.
And one quick thing to add that I forgot to add. They're playing tonight, but tomorrow it's a doubleheader. So I think that the doubleheader favors UVA tomorrow because they have more arms than UNC does. And that's usually what it comes down to. That's why I think North Carolina is the play tonight. If they're going to take one, it's going to be tonight.
That's good info there, especially.
Just because I'm looking at the numbers, Nick Parker, and while we're saying, it's odd that he's the starter for tonight, but he's got a 4.6 ERA. They've got 3 other guys on that starting rotation that have started games. They're 2.16, 1.72, and 1.76. So Nick is definitely the highest ER for any of their starters they've had. But you're talking about 3 guys that could go over a doubleheader tomorrow. Cavaliers are going to be the team tomorrow. I'm hoping North Carolina wins tonight, not only because we cash a bet, but that should kind of teeter the number a little bit more into our favor. So where you're not having to lay a minus 150, 165 on Virginia tomorrow. Now, that being said, if the Cavaliers come out and beat the crap out of North Carolina tonight, I would expect that price on games tomorrow to be a lot higher than what it is.
That's 4 games that we have on the docket for tonight. Johnny, weekend is coming, and the Massachusetts people have, if you go into their DraftKings account, you have 8 $25 plays, and this is to you as well, Matt. You talked about a couple long shots. I'm not going to go in and put $25 on minus 150, or I'm going to try to take some swings. So, Johnny, anything in college? You talked about Campbell. You talked about a couple other teams that were long shot. You brought up Coastal Carolina, by the way. They beat UConn a few years ago. That's who they beat to move on to. Again,
I mean, I would probably, if you have those free bets, Jeff, anybody that's got those free bets, I wouldn't bother playing them tonight. I'd maybe have 1 or 2 of those $25 bets that I would say just to get some action and maybe build up something. But I would take, realistically, 4 of those $25 bets. I would play Wake Forest. Wake Forest, you can still get at 15-1. That is probably the best bet for the rest of the year. Make sure you get Wake Forest down. That's important. And, if you have Caesars, but that's the thing. Like Campbell right now is 100-1 on DraftKings versus 300-1 on Caesars. So if you're going to play that, you have to go on that book. And then, of course, get a little something on Florida. But if you're looking to take a swing today, Boston College actually doesn't open pitch for another 22 minutes. They moved the start time to 3 p.m. I would look at, I know Matt likes Iowa. I think Iowa at Texas Tech is like a plus 145 dog is worthy. And then otherwise you could just look at a nice parlay, a Wake Forest, Tennessee, LSU, that kind of thing. That was one of my favorite plays of the day. That was at plus 108. It's probably moved a little bit since, but that's still a worthy endeavor. So I would definitely go future heavy with those free bets because, you're not going to get a huge return if you hit, right? You're not going to get a huge return. Whereas you're going to get a free shot to play Wake Forest, who I think has a real chance to do damage this year and make it all the way.
Matty?
I'm going to answer your question and tell you not to put it off until tomorrow because I actually like several dogs. Let's go super long shot just because I'm going to do it one more time. I'm going to bet against this Vanderbilt team. I don't think they're legitimate. You can get Loyola Marymount right now at plus 300, and I think they do take one of the games against Vanderbilt. Power ratings wise, I would say that Oklahoma State is a better team top to bottom than Vanderbilt, and Loyola, they did take one out of the 3-game series against Oklahoma State. They are 6-5, so the record is not great, but Loyola Marymount plus 300, throw one of those $25 bets on it. And like Johnny said, Boston College is another one. I also like Iowa plus 145. We talked about Liberty over East Carolina on Johnny's podcast a little bit ago. Liberty does have some hitters, and I think East Carolina could struggle with them. I think plus 135 is a little too short, but if you just want a dog to bet, I would take that. And then San Diego plus 130 over TCU. TCU has some arms that are not going to be able to go this weekend. I think that they take 1 out of the 3 games against the Horned Frogs. So there would be 4, maybe 5 bets. I can't remember now what I gave you, but there would be a couple that I would throw a free bet down on.
I have one to add. I want to see what your thought is here. What about Maine against Maryland going against Savicool? You can get Maine at plus 285. Now, if you don't like the upset price, you could get them at plus 4.5 on the run line. I don't know what Maryland has done to warrant the fact that they can cover 5 runs right now. I mean, Maine's not one of these big programs, but Maryland has just been sleeping. Maryland leaves a small village on the base paths. Their bullpen is not good. If Savicool for whatever reason comes out today, he just doesn't have it. He's missing spots and he's walking a ton of guys. Last week against Ole Miss in Minneapolis, the U.S. Bank game where the Vikings play, he was I think he only went 5 innings. Maybe I don't think they pushed him through 6, did they? He had a high. Either way, the point is he was working with a high pitch count the whole game. So if that's the case, and Maine keeps it close, that 4.5 run line, that's a big run line. Maryland is not capable of covering it to anybody at the moment, even with Savicool on the mound. They are an absolute dumpster fire. So that is a worthy endeavor of a play.
Matt, you agree?
Maryland is in the cellar for me, the betting cellar. I can't bet against them. I can't bet on them anymore until I see more. But I mean, hats off to Johnny. You throw Maine out there, the Bears, the Black Bears of Maine, 3-6. Hey, Maryland has been atrocious right now, and I don't know why I kept betting them as long as I did, but go for it, man. It's a free bet. Just throw it out there. Maryland, but I mean, Maryland's. This is going to be the game that they win 20-2, and we say, "Oh, okay, yeah, let's start back in Maryland again. Maybe they are good."
I'm not saying it's officially on my card. I'm just saying if people are looking for one of the big dogs, that I got my whole card out there. One of them was involving getting LSU on the run line at minus 4.5. 20 minutes later, it was out to minus 6.5.
You're moving numbers. You're moving numbers.
Yeah, we're moving numbers, baby. It took Tennessee on the run line at home, minus 5.5 against Morehead State. Those are like one of these, like I want to get involved in the big teams. Like you have two of the 3 best pitchers in the country going. We're backing 2 of the 3 best pitchers, probably the 2 top pitchers off the board in July, in Paul Skeens and Chase Dollander. And like, if for anybody that hadn't heard me talk about it, Matt's heard it by now a million times. Chase Dollander, he, in my opinion, should be the number 1 overall pick over everybody. But if this kid doesn't win at least 2 Cy Youngs, his career was a disappointment. This kid should be getting what Steven Strasburg got in terms of hype. He is the highest regarded prospect since Cole or Strasburg. This kid has 4 elite pitches. He could throw off for strikes with crazy command, crazy movement. He has unbelievable mechanics. He's got poise. He's ready to strike out big league hitters now. This kid is unbelievable. This kid is somebody you're going to hear about in 3 years. I think so. If he gets drafted in 2023, I feel like he should definitely be up by no later than 2025 if all goes according to plan. He's unbelievable, kid.
Johnny, right now, you're a GM for a major league team.
Mm-hmm.
Dollander or Skeens?
Can't go wrong, in my opinion. I'd probably go Dollander. Skeens has been unbelievable, but let's call it what it is. We haven't seen him against real opponents. We know what Dollander can do in the big moment against big teams, against the SEC. We've seen it. And I'm not saying Skeens isn't going to have a great career, because I'm sure he will. But I need to see more from him before I would say that. And Skeens really works off 2 pitches well. He lives off that fastball and that slider. I haven't seen him develop the other 2 pitches to the extent that Chase has. But that's nitpick.
But I mean, that's why we were high on Tennessee this year. I mean, their rotation is just stellar, and they probably have the best, if not one of the best, pitchers in college baseball.
Well, then they have another one coming right behind him next year, Chase Burns, who's going to be top 3. Chase Burns is I would think right now, like if we're foregoing high schoolers and international players, because I don't really keep up with that as much, I would think it's Cags, Vance Honeycutt, Chase Burns in some order, and then probably Thatcher Hurd 4th or 5th.
It's going to be fun to watch, and Tennessee is going to continue to be a wagon until Vitello replaces Dave Van Horn up on the hill, Arkansas.
That's wishful.
It's going to happen. It's going to happen. When Dave Van Horn retires, mark my words, March 10th, 2023. Dave Van Horn is going to retire, and Tony Vitello will immediately be announced as the head ball coach for the Razorbacks.
No, he won't.
It's already in the works.
It's not happening.
Guys, I absolutely love this time every week. I eat, sleep, drink, shit, baseball. World Baseball Classic going on now. Spring training, the Red Sox can't lose, of course, which we know in the regular season means they won't be able to win. But to get some knowledge from 2 experts and guys with the passion and the dedication and the enthusiasm that you both have, our team can't thank you guys enough. And as I like to close, Johnny, tell everyone where they can find you, where they can get your work, and where to follow you on Twitter, etc.
Absolutely. You can follow me on Twitter at _JohnnyVTV. Pretty much all my social handles, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter are JohnnyVTV in some form or another. All my stuff is on betkarma.com. We have a lot of great stuff, including our podcast, Breaking Bet, which Matt is almost pretty much my co-host at this point. And then I have my Johnny VTV live podcast on YouTube as well as my Twitter.
Matt?
Jeff, you can find me at Grissom Tweets on Twitter or visit mattgrissom.com for a list of all of my best bets and bet tracker. And I think that's all the social media I have. I'm too old for TikTok, Snapchat, all that. So just find me on Twitter. Let's cash some bets this weekend. Jeff, it's always a pleasure. Enjoyed it, man.
Always a pleasure, man. Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, thank you guys. For everyone watching and listening, go on to social media, go on to Twitter, on the _JohnnyVTV at Grissom Tweets. You got 2 of the best right here that give us the pleasure every Friday at 2:00 to come and talk. They're actually, the good part is they get warmed up when they do their own. Johnny does his own show at 1:00, so we're just getting them warmed up as they come here at 2:00. So we can't thank them enough. For everyone else watching, listen, enjoy yourself, enjoy the madness. Make sure you reach out to these guys. They gave out a lot of games, some long shots, all the mass new mobile apps will thank you as we crush all the dogs and the future market as well. We can't thank you enough. And thank everyone that watched and listened, and we will see you soon.